So, what actually happened to Bulkhead? And I don't mean physically. Look, there he is! He's a G1 Nightmare Cube now! Surely you love him! I mean, like, actually, where did he go? He was a main character in two of the most well-known and beloved installments in the franchise, then, outside of a brief appearance in Rid 15, he just kind of vanished. His reinvention in Transformers Animated was good enough to warrant being carried over to Prime, but apparently not good enough to show up in anything else. This isn't something I've thought about until super recently with the release of his new Legends toy, turning him into the previously mentioned G1 Nightmare Cube. A new wave of love for this character has emerged out the shadows despite him being no more than an extra in recent years. I didn't even fully grow to appreciate this character until a few weeks back when I did my bi-weekly rewatch of Transformers Animated. It is possible to watch the whole show in a day. I would not recommend even trying. At first I thought it might have been because of changing attitudes from higher ups by forcing Windblade to be a mainstay just because she was created by fans, meaning that one of the other popular characters had to be pushed out. And while that could certainly be the case, I think there's something bigger going on here. But first, little quiz, who is Bulkhead? The Bulkhead we know now wasn't created until Transformers Animated. Before that he was some twunk in Energon, but we're not talking about, any of that. Bulkhead was the first character created by Derek J. Wyatt, rest in peace, for the then upcoming Transformers Heroes, later renamed to Transformers Animated. This is actually the very first sketch Wyatt had to establish the show's look, making this the first official piece of Transformers Animated content like ever. So when I say Bulkhead is super important to the look and style of Animated, yeah, he's kind of a big deal in that sense. I'm not saying if you love Animated that means you should love Bulkhead, but if you don't, then just get the frick out of here. In regards to his character, let's look at what the official Transformers Animated website from 2007 has to say about him. Hold on, let me just, okay, there we go.
Every team needs its muscle, and Bulkhead isn't. Designed primarily for dominating, Bulkhead is a ball in a Chinese shop. Whether he wants to be or not, in battle, he's your greatest weapon.
Even though I think he's the weakest of the main cast, I still love this dude. He's the generic gentle giant archetype, sure, but he's like the glue that holds the rest of the characters together. Bumblebee's best friend, someone that Prowl can confide with, the guy who, in the end, unexpectedly saves the world with his knowledge of space bridges. There's a lot to love in this guy. Then he was brought over to Prime where he became a sort of generic tough guy, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But I'm not going to dismiss the impact that the Prime character had as well. I don't intend to change or take away anyone's feelings towards that counterpart. A lot of people like him, and I think it's great that you can see something in him that I don't. As mentioned before, after Prime, he made a very brief appearance in Rid 15 and hasn't been in anything since. His last appearance was in November of 2017. So, what happened?
Beginning, middle, end. Facts, details, condense, plot, tell it.
I put a post on Twitter asking for people's opinions on the character, and the response was very positive. Most of the responses came down to him being a round boy and a wholesome guy. Which is fair, I agree. He is both a round man and adorable. A couple of replies said they felt represented by the character at a young age / right now, which I think is pretty good too. So with all this positive reception, love, praise and so on, why has Bulkhead become nothing more than an extra to fill out space? And trust me, he fills out a lot of space. I do think it's a little weird that a lot of the promotional material for Prime either shoves him at the back or excludes him completely, but that's probably unrelated. As I mentioned earlier, there is the possibility of him being pushed out to make room for Windblade. I think that's a fair enough assessment, and probably the truth. But there's another prevailing theory that I actually wasn't aware of until I started researching this. In a poll I ran from my community page asking for your favourite of the main cast from each show, Bulkhead ranked consistently low. Despite the love for him I see online, when compared to the cast he's surrounded by, it seems like he falls a little short. I think I'm guilty of this too. I thought he was pretty boring in Prime, and while a pretty good character in Animated, Bulkhead had considerably less development than the rest of the cast. Like part of me thinks the similarities between these two begin and end at green, round and friendly. And while it isn't a bad thing to make changes to a character between continuities like this, it feels like 5 steps back for Bulkhead. Gone is the knowledgeable but still clumsy gentle giant that would rather be painting that one scene from Airplane than fight. Now he's a generic tough guy whose only filter is I'm gonna smash your frickin' anal passage in. But again, maybe I'm not seeing something that you guys do. It's totally valid to like this guy. Now, my main problem lies in saying if you dislike this character, you're fatphobic and classist. This is a real message I received a while back as a reply to my shitty Prime review from years ago.
If you think Bulkhead is crass and mean and wrong, is not sweet, then he's not particularly deep. I would like you to look up racism, ableism, fatphobia, and then try and remove those from your world so you stop being a massive tool. Thanks.
I tried to reply, but they blocked me. This is the message that sent me down this rabbit hole of green and chonk. There's a subsection of the fandom that feels so strongly about Bulkhead they're willing to accuse everyone else that doesn't like him of being fatphobic or whatever. And this isn't like one or two or like 3 people. There's a load of people that feel this way. You can love this character as much as you want, but grouping everyone who doesn't into this weird negative space isn't going to make anyone love him too. Of course, I don't think this is the reason why he's been Thanos snapped from Transformers, but I do think this glamorizing, almost gatekeepy way people treat him doesn't help. Now watch as I combine all the juice from the mind, heal up, wheel up, bring it back, come rewind. I think this is a more layered and complex situation than people give it credit for. People love this character, but the higher-ups don't seem to have much interest in him anymore, especially with this endless G1 phase that Hasbro can't seem to escape from. Everyone after 2007 and before 2014 are in this dead zone of content because they're new and fresh and not G1. And when compared to the, for lack of a better word, more fleshed out characters he's surrounded by, it can feel like Bulkhead is a weak link. I kinda want to leave the last page blank here to get your thoughts on this. See, this is the audience engagement part of the video. Maybe the success of his legacy toy might change things, maybe not. In the end, I think we can all agree that it'd be nice to have our big green boy back.
Human beings. Bunch of backstabbing weasels.
Not that one. Completely unrelated, but there is this moment from one of the first episodes of Prime where the timing for Bulkhead's running animation is completely messed up and it looks super freaky. Like, it's so unnatural. Man's a Junji Ito character.